Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello, plant. Welcome to the show, where every flower tells a story. Watch them grow. Hello, hello, plant. And every shade and hue, for every heart and every hand, we've got something for you, just for you. In the morning sun, where the flowers bloom, colors blurs like a painter's dream come true. Roses red and violets blue, every petal whispers something new. From tiny seeds to trees so grand, every leaf and bird, it's all at hand. Hello, hello, plant. Welcome to the show, where every flower tells a story. Watch them grow. Hello, hello, plant. In every shade and hue, for every heart and every hand, we've got something for you. Indoor greens and outdoor scenes, design your space, let your garden dreams glide. Personal touch with our garden design, free sessions to blend within your budget line. From tiny seeds to trees so grand, every leaf and bird, it's all at hand. Hello, hello, plant. Welcome to the show, where every flower tells a story. Watch them grow. Hello, hello, plant. In every shade and hue, for every heart and every hand, we've got something for you. Now everybody, let's say hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello, plant. Welcome to the show.
All right, hey guys, welcome to our Growers, not our Growers Direct Flash Sale, although we do have one of those happening right now. Welcome to the live Q&A, where you get your expert advice from Chris, who's had, how many years of horticultural experience are we now?
I went door knocking when I was 7.
Yeah.
And that means that I've been doing it for a long, long time.
That's right. So Chris is here to help you. We do this show. It's a live that we do every week on a Monday, which is merely just to give you advice from an expert, which is Chris here in the chair. So if you have any gardening questions, that's what we're here for today. We just do it to help you get your garden growing and looking beautiful. Any cool news you have for us this week, Chris?
Well, things that are happening. We're getting into the bare-rooted season, and it's a great time of year. It's a sort of an interesting time of year, and it's a time where, say, if you wanted a big tree and you had a small budget, this is the time of year to do it. You know, quite big trees are coming out from the field, and like I was looking just to give you an example, a 2 metre Sensation maple at the moment selling for $26.99 as a bare root, whereas that would be nearly $200 in summer in leaf in a big pot. So it's bare rooted, but there's all sorts of things that get bare rooted, and as we get into the winter, there's all types of fruit trees and English boxes and all sorts of things. So it's a great time to get back into the garden and take on that project that maybe you couldn't afford to do at some other time of the year. A lot of people don't realise, but winter could be a great time to get into the garden because you do have that bare rooted things available. It's also a time where you can bare root things yourself. So you might have a beautiful maple, but it's in the wrong spot. You're extending the house, and winter time is a time when you could dig up your maple, bare root it, and move it to another spot. Whereas if you dig it up in the summer, it could be dead in 10 minutes, whereas it's quite harder to shift at this time of year. So bare rooting is kind of a good time to get a bargain, and it's also something that you could do because inevitably people widen their driveways and extend their houses, and they do things that cause them to have to, and sometimes the plant is too good and too beautiful to just chop out and throw away. And so winter is a time when lots of things like hydrangeas, roses, maples can all be dug up and moved to another spot. So it's a time of year that has a little interesting dimension to it.
Yeah, absolutely, and especially where we are in Melbourne too, you're sort of in a crossover period. You still got a lot of stuff with autumn colour, so you can check out what has good autumn colour right now, can't you?
Like now's a great time to look at and choose plants by their autumn colour.
Absolutely, and there's a surprising amount of stuff that's in flower still at this time of year that you can bring colour to your garden. Yeah,
that's right. Well, people don't realise, but there are lots and lots of things. If you come in the nursery, there's quite a bit more colour than what you'd expect, really, a person can have. Melbourne's a wonderful place in that you can have colour in your garden 365 days of the year. So 365 days a year, colour in your garden. But now if you've got a question about your garden, maybe you want to dig up a maple tree and you want to know how much roots you've got to put on that maple tree. Maybe there's something over your grandmother's that you could dig up and bring over to your place.
All right, let's get stuck into the questions. Yeah. So we've got about 40 minutes with Chris here. We'll start over on TikTok. Shannon asking, I'm renting, but I want to start a veggie garden of some capacity. Any tips on where to start?
Okay, so what you want is you want sunshine. That's the number one thing is sunshine. And probably the first thing I would do to start a veggie garden is I'd pick out a sunny spot. And as much sun as you can all day, things will grow faster, they'll ripen better, you'll get more flavour in the sun. It's funny, there was a couple of bunches of, in the supermarket the other day, there was a coriander. I was making a salsa and I needed some nice coriander. And it was interesting, I could see some hothouse grown coriander that really hadn't had good sun on it. It was, and when I tasted it, it had absolutely no flavour. It was of no value as coriander. So get out and get a nice sunny spot. Then start yourself a compost heap. Compost will really power your vegetables. And right now you'd probably put a bit of dolomite lime, maybe a kilo per square metre of dolomite lime over your ground, and you start digging over your ground and digging it over now with a bit of dolomite lime, and then you can start planting. But choose a sunny spot, and there's winter greens and things that you can start planting now. Actually, lettuces are fine, spinach is fine, broad beans, cabbages, cauliflowers, broccoli, all can get planted now. So there's things that you can plant, and I'd be looking for the sunniest spot. I'd be digging it over, and I'd be starting to make some compost. So every time I dug over my my veggie patch, I'd be working in a bit of compost.
Awesome. All right, there you go, Shannon. Hopefully that helps you out with your question there on where to start on growing a veggie patch in your rental there. Mercedes asks, when will you get prickly pear in next? Will it have to be next season? Prickly pear. Actually,
I'm getting prickly pears in fairly soon. I'm getting 3 different varieties. I'm getting a dark red and a sort of a light red and a yellow variety. So we'll have you could order those pretty soon, and I'm going to start them off as cuttings in the nursery.
Okay, awesome. So soon, Mercedes. Keep your ear out for those. I'm sure we'll promote about it when they're in stock. Sylvia says, hi Chris on YouTube.
Hi Sylvia.
There you go.
Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it.
And Saprita also says hi, Chris, over on
Hi, Saprita.
Instagram. All right, we'll jump over to Instagram now. USDA Zone 8. I don't know. Would you know what that is, Chris?
No, I'm not, but we could Google and have a look at that.
Yeah, we'll have a quick Google. And then he's just asking, Jason's asking, columnar tree north facing, any suggestions?
Okay.
So it's a colder front, isn't it?
Yeah,
North
I reckon even without looking at that hardiness zone, I would go for a fastigiate hornbeam. You'll find they're really easy to trim and shape and really, really hardy. They grow almost anywhere in the US. So fastigiate hornbeam, fabulous columnar tree.
Awesome. And then we just found out Zone 8 is the mild climate, average minimum winter temperatures range between 10 to 20 Fahrenheit, which is 12 to 6 degrees Celsius. So it's not crazy cold.
Yeah, so fastigiate hornbeam would be terrific there.
Awesome. All right, next question comes to us from Akshu asking, how to create microclimate in our own backyard? Would that just be a...
Okay, so what you'd be doing is you'd be thinking about what sort of microclimate you wanted. But say you wanted a bit of humidity and sort of a bit of sun. One of the best things is like Japanese maples, silver birches are all fabulous to increase the humidity and provide a bit of dappled shade.
Amazing. So silver birch forest in the corner of the garden?
Yeah, like silver birches love to go together. So you can do like a clump or a little row or a forest of silver birches and really transform the climate. Sort of take the edge, like without removing all the light and all the sun, it'll take the edge off the heat, it'll increase the humidity. Fabulous tree for that.
Yeah, actually my friend purchased the house and he is a small suburban block and he's got a little silver birch forest in the back.
Right.
And they're all growing happily together, so it's really interesting to know that.
Birches love growing together.
All right, there you go, Akshu. Next one is from, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to pronounce that, I'll just say Hampton's Farmhouse. Is there any particular type of bougainvillea we can use which has less thorns on them? And which range of hydrangeas we can use that will have flowers for long periods? So we're assuming it's Melbourne, Victoria.
Okay, I reckon Sunday Phrase is fabulous. It flowers quite early and quite freely, and the flowers will hang on. It's important you keep the water up to it, but if you keep the water up to it, it'll come right through to autumn. And I've got what I'll do on that. I'm not a great expert on bougainvillea, but I've got one of my suppliers grows a big range of them, and what we'll do is we'll find out how can we get that information to them. I'll find out which one she grows that is the least thorny.
Yeah, so where is it on Instagram? Yeah, Dwarkana Hampton's Farmhouse. If you want to, I hope I pronounced that right. If you just want to message us, you can direct message us here on Instagram.
Yeah, and what I'll do is I'll speak to my supplier. She knows better than me, and we'll tell you which one to grow. But one comment I will make about bougainvillea in Melbourne is the one that grows the best is quite a thorny one. It's Trailii. Trailii grows ferociously in Melbourne, grows absolutely beautiful. And you can find examples of it 80 and 100 years old. We did a video with this chap at bonsai'd really old 80 and 90 year old Trailii. So Trailii is not affected by the cold in Melbourne, grows fabulously in Melbourne, an incredible show of purple foliage and thorns prolifically.
All right, perfect.
Yeah.
Maybe not though if you don't want thorns, but there you go. It gives you some options.
And a lovely rich purple flower. I really like. Trailii is a great plant, looks great, beautiful flowers, and really does well in the Melbourne climate.
All right, there you go, Dwarkana Hampton's Farmhouse. And Kepler says, can you please give us a quick pic of those cute hairy toes of yours? It would mean the world to me. Well, Chris has got pants on today, so don't think that'll work out for you. All right, well, actually Sylvia on YouTube said she purchased a chocolate fountain plant from us. All leaves have dropped. Do I need to prune it?
Deciduous. It's a chocolate fountain. It's a Albizia julibrizin chocolate fountain.
Yeah, she wants to plant in the garden. Any advice on soil preparation as well?
It's a legume. Now legumes need nice loose soil and good drainage. So if you're not in a well-drained spot, mount it up a little, dig a deep hole, lots of loose soil. So lots and lots of loose soil underneath it. Loves a little bit of limestone or lime, crushed lime, dolomite lime, and loves a bit of hot sun. So if you could pick out a hot sunny spot, beautiful drainage, and with legumes, when you get everything just right, they tend to go crazy, and that'll just go crazy. And the chocolate, what was it called? Chocolate fountain?
Chocolate fountain, yeah.
So your chocolate fountain is a very rare form of the albizia, and it has incredible sort of chocolate tonings on all the new growth. And one of those growing vigorously in your garden would be a really interesting and beautiful plant.
All right, beautiful. All right, move along to HB over on TikTok saying, my plant pot's flooded with rain here. Can I empty the very wet pot soil and replace with fresh new soil? I'm guessing that's what you meant.
Not a bad idea. There's probably up in northern New South Wales or southeastern Queensland where people have had continuous rain for ages, and had a bit of fresh potting mix certainly wouldn't go astray.
All right, beautiful. So give that a whirl. All right, Tracy says, hello, happy Monday. Do I dip trees in sea salt before planting in the ground when they are barefoot? And then she said, lol, I meant bare rooted, I guess she meant.
Yeah, yeah.
She said barefoot twice. I guess that was the auto correction.
Yeah. So I think you're right on the money. Sea salt actually encourages root development, and maybe go a little longer than a dip, maybe a little bit of a soak for a couple of hours, and I think that could really encourage the new root development. But what's really important with your barefoot or your bare rooted plants is to make sure they're not going to be in a hole full of water through the winter. Like so mound them up. Check the drainage. Like I was reading something on transplanting plants the other day, and they were saying that you should dig the hole, flood it with water, and make sure that it drains out within half an hour. And I think that's a great rule. The main reason why people would lose their barefoot trees is they dig a deep hole. They often put them right down deep in the hole. It fills with water when it starts when you get into it, because winter and early spring are our wet season. It fills with water, and the roots get damaged. They basically drown under the water, and your barefooted plant doesn't grow. So plenty of loose soil, mound it up if you have to, and sea salt is a great idea, but maybe soak it for an hour or two.
Awesome. Maybe we should change it to barefooted plants.
Yeah.
Rolls off a bit easier.
It's kind of cute, isn't it? Barefoot.
Tracy says also, don't forget, this is a good comment, don't forget to like this live, everyone, that way it's seen by a larger audience. That's true. Liking, loving.
Yeah, if you find this useful,
share it.
If you're finding what we're doing useful, if you like it and share it with others, then it's more use to more people.
Yeah, exactly, and it's a helpful live indeed. All right, Katie here asks on TikTok, hello, do you have any tips on moving Australian grass trees?
They're highly movable, and what I've observed is that you would, I'd say the timing would be important, and I would tend to think that late winter, early spring would be the time to do it, and you dig them up with plenty of root, and they need to go into a very, very hungry potting mix, like something, you don't want any phosphorus in it, a hungry, light, sort of sandy mix. When you buy them commercially, the potting mix around them always looks like rubbish. So if you put them into like fertile soil that like a rose might enjoy, you can actually kill them. So they really don't like phosphorus, so they need to go into a very light soil mix. And or if you're just planting them straight into the garden, what I'd do is I'd put a couple of boulders in the garden and mound it up with some really hungry sandy soil and pop them in there. You maybe put a little tiny dose of lime around them and just the tiniest little bit of Osmocote, but you'd use the native Osmocote. So you'd use micro amounts of native Osmocote, a little bit of lime, really, really hungry soil. And what they like in summer is plenty of water, but fabulous drainage. So that's the idea of mounding them up with a bit of sort of light sandy soil. So really you've got to do it just right. And the other thing, if you're digging one up, you can shear all the foliage off it so that while it's re-establishing itself, it's not having to to deal with holding a lot of foliage.
Yep. Awesome.
So I hope that wasn't too much to say at one time. But yeah, so I guess light soil, very careful with the fertiliser, native Osmocote in minute doses, really light sandy soil, fabulous drainage, followed by plenty of water in the summer.
Yep, beautiful. And also that goes out to you, Katie. Hopefully that answers your question. And if you miss any of Chris's answers here today, or you missed the question, you can always head over to YouTube at the end of this live, where we post this live indefinitely, and you can re-watch it if you missed your answer to any of your questions. So that's YouTube. Hello plants. All right, let's go to the next question. Emma asks, I need a hedge that's tall, 3 meters for a longer driveway, full western sun, width is only 80 centimeters wide.
Okay. We put out a fabulous video only a week or so ago about weeping lily-pilly. And how would a person find that?
Well, you could just go to Hello Plants on YouTube, might be the easiest, because the YouTube search engine is actually really good. It's like the second largest search engine next to Google. So you could just go to YouTube, do Hello Plants, and it was weeping lily-pilly. If you do that, all in your search, it'll come up the top.
And they love to be trimmed. You could keep them 80 centimetres wide, no worries. So you could have them 80 centimetres wide. They're really fast growing, planted and really looked after properly. 1.5 meters a year is your growth. And you can see the hedge that we've photographed, a little bit wider than 80 centimetres, but you could trim it and keep it 80 centimetres wide. These people didn't really have a space restriction and did the hedge, but you can see it's a fabulous lush green hedge that really, creates seclusion for that property. So
perfect.
I reckon check out that video and you'll fall in love with weeping lily-pilly. And in a hot sunny spot and with plenty of water, it's one of the best things around.
Great, yeah, and you see they're planted near swimming pools and stuff, so they mustn't have a vigorous root or anything like that.
They're not a plant to be scared of, in terms of roots and things.
They
like
look
that.
really awesome. Yeah, check those out, Emma. All right, next up, another question here asking from Q, how to get rid of mealy bugs without harsh chemicals?
One of the staff here was telling me that she's eliminated mealybugs out of her houseplants by growing them in zeolite. She said that the peaty soils that people use on their indoor plants attract the mealybugs, and and zeolite they'll grow. Zeolite is a type of crushed stone that contains plenty of minerals and nutrients, but doesn't provide any sort of shelter or home for the bugs. So that would be one way of cleaning up in the house. The other thing would be very good for clearing up all sorts of bugs is spraying with neem. So neem is really good for getting rid of all sorts of bugs in the soil and on plants and things like that. And it's not neem is really pretty much good. A lot of Indian people, use it for all sorts of things, and the only thing it's bad for is pregnant women. So if you're not pregnant, neem is fabulous for almost every sort of bug problem in horticulture.
Okay, awesome. There you go, Q. Neem.
And neem is a
how do you spell it too? Just
N-E-E-M, and
okay.
it's a natural product that Indians have been using for, the people from India have been using for thousands of years, both as a herb to take internally and use externally, and also to use on their farms and in amongst their in their orchards and things like that.
That sounds great. All right, love it. All right, there you go, Q. Hopefully that helps you out there. Kepler just says, thanks everyone, have a great afternoon. He was the one who wanted to see the hairy legs, the cute hairy legs.
Right, maybe next week.
Akshu says, how to grow curry leaves and moringa plant in Melbourne.
Okay, you'd need to have a plastic house or a poly house to grow and capture the sun's heat and sort of build it up to grow moringa. Moringa is a very tropical, sort of equatorial, tropical kind of plant. So people in Cairns and Darwin and that could easily grow moringa. But your curry leaf grows beautifully in Melbourne. We've got lovely big 8-inch pots, big leafy lush ones like that. And lots of my Indian customers, when I deliver to their houses, they'll proudly show me their beautiful curry plants. So I know that curry plants great in Melbourne. Moringa, either build a poly house or move to Darwin.
All right, actually, hopefully you don't have to move to Darwin to get it done.
Yeah.
Give it a go here. All right, good. Next, I can't pronounce that, sorry. But the next question is, what is something colourful and full I can plant on my front yard in a big massive pot that stays pretty all year round? Oh, it's Samantha. She put her name there on the second comment. All right, so from Samantha there. It's backwards, I guess.
Yeah, so something in a
Colourful
big pot.
and full I can plant on my front yard in a big massive pot. So maybe a centerpiece or something in a big pot. And colourful and full.
Colourful and full.
Would a camellia or something?
It's good that, well, colourful. Let's think of something that so in a pot you want hardy. You want something really, really hardy in a pot, and colourful and full. Do you know what I would often do, depending on what happens here, is when people come here and they want to grow a pot somewhere, I say choose a pot or show me the pot. And I'm always inspired or influenced by the pot. But what comes to my mind is you could do in a big pot for colour, like often if you're the sort of person who goes off for 2 weeks in the middle of summer and there's no one much you can rely on to water the garden, the sort of thing I would do is I'd get a lovely selection of succulents. And you can get sort of golden and silver, you can get ones that cascade over the side of the pot, you can get ones that sort of purple and red, and you can get them low and silver and green, and so a really big pot, if you were to put 4 or 5 well-chosen succulents with a lot of contrast, varying heights and things like that, you'd be able to go off for 2 or 3 weeks in the middle of summer and come back, and they might be a little bit wrinkly and a little bit sad, but give them a drink and they'll be fine. And so in terms of easy care and no worries, my first choice would be a succulent, but then
she says she had hydrangeas, but they died too hot.
Yeah. So I might, and I'm just worried about going too far, but so a well-chosen collection of 4 or 5 succulents, and there's some quite large growing succulents that you can use. And I've had a jade plant in a pot now for about 12 years, and it's looking fabulous. And a big pot and beautiful. It's like a bonsai. And a jade is a succulent, of course, and they kind of grow like a bonsai. Or the other way you could grow is coprosma. So you could make an interesting one if you say did a.
What about dichondrosil falls with the coprosma in the middle?
Yeah.
Or something?
What I was going to say is if you picked a really nice cordyline, and you can Google and look at this, say an electric flash cordyline, which has got interesting yellows and browns and things like that, and then underneath it you planted a tequila sunrise coprosma, and that's kind of got interesting oranges and kind of very sort of Mexican kind of flavour, which also goes with that. And then down the front, a bit of silver dichondra cascading over the front. So if you had silver, you had all these beautiful oranges and browns and things like that, and browns and yellows, and a nice sort of flowing cordyline at the back. That would be not quite as hardy as my succulent idea, but very, very colourful and much, much hardier than hydrangeas. You've really got to be on the ball to keep your hydrangeas looking good. They water.
All right, perfect. There you go, Samantha. And one thing I should probably mention is that obviously we have to rush through this live and get through all of the questions one by one, but if you want a one-on-one consultation with Chris, you can book him for our free garden design service, can't you?
Yeah, that's right. And what we do is we take a little deposit, and then when you buy your plants, that deposit comes off. So it's $50 for 20 minutes, and in 20 minutes I can do your front garden, or I can do a big garden bed, or solve some terrible horticultural problem, or you do a 1 hour and we can do front and back on a new house, or work out how to redesign a front garden for an old house or something like that. And I do a real variety of jobs. I do farms. 1 minute I'll be doing a farm, the next minute I'll be doing a big patio on a penthouse high rise in Melbourne. And then I'll be doing a little tiny front garden on a terrace house. And actually, I think that's what makes it interesting and good for me to do, is that variety of things that come in, and I really enjoy that variety.
Yeah, so if you need a bit more time with Chris, you can book in his garden design services over on hellohelloplants.com.au. All right, let's keep moving along. All right, so Samantha also said, just Googled all of that. Yes, fabulous. Thank you. So that's good.
Great.
She's happy with
I'm
those
glad
choices.
you Googled that, and I think you could make a beautiful pot with either of those combos.
Lovely. All right. Next one's from Daltz asking, hi Chris, I was wondering which climbing roses are the best for a 6-meter climbing gondola?
Okay. I like my favourite climbing rose by a mile is called crepuscule. And crepuscule actually is a funny word. Crepuscule means that sort of that funny spot in the evening between light and dark where colours and everything become a bit muted. And crepuscule is the most unusual colour. It's very well named. It's kind of got a little bit of pink, a little bit of salmon, a little bit of yellow, and a little bit of cream in it. And that sounds terrible, but when you see it in real life, it's fabulous. But what's really great about crepuscule is a number of things. First of all, it grows like crazy, so it'll cover a big area quickly. Secondly, it has very few thorns, so it's nice and easy to work with. Thirdly, in the Melbourne climate, it's evergreen, so it keeps its leaves all year round. And fourthly, it flowers all year round. Now, in the winter, the flowers are very sparse and very scarce, but you're still blessed with that odd little flower. And then when you get into the warmth of spring, it'll be absolutely coated in flowers, and the flowers come in waves all through the summer, and at times that you can barely see the plant for flowers. And so although I say it flowers every day, it doesn't flower heaps every day. It flowers in variable amounts at different times, but cover a large area, fabulous, interesting colour, and few thorns. And because what I don't like about a lot of climbing roses is that they look like something from a horror movie in the wintertime. You know, they're all naked and thorny and horrible with no flowers or anything. So your crepuscule, very much, it's right out on its own in terms of being evergreen and flowering all year to some extent.
Yeah, what's the colour on it again?
It's kind of a really interesting mixture of kind of pale yellow,
Yeah.
or sort of orangey yellow, a little bit of salmon in there, and a little bit of pink and a little bit of cream.
Oh, it sounds really nice.
And so it's a really interesting colour, and it really is well named as crepuscule, meaning that sort of that evening light, and it kind of looks like that evening light.
There you go, Delts 101. Hopefully that helps you out with your 6-meter gondola you've got there. All right, we'll jump over to Facebook here. Paula asks, I have an olive tree in a pot and it is getting very tall. Can I cut the top off to keep it more compact? Perth, Western Australia.
Yes and no. Right now, leave your top there, let it photosynthesize all winter long, and then on the 1st of August, chop it back hard, and that way it will have saved up the sun for the winter, and it'll burst away and grow beautifully. And if it's in a pot, it's likely that you've been watering it a lot and you've washed all the lime away. So right now, to help build its strength, you should put a really good dose of dolomite lime around your lime tree, your olive tree, a really good dose of dolomite lime, and then when you do that now, and then when you cut it back in August, I'd give it a couple of tablespoons of Osmocote, and it should really boom away for you.
Awesome, there you go, Paula, answering your question there on the olive tree and looking after it. All right, good. Next one on Facebook comes to us from Mitchell, asking, are Hebe Weary Mist a good plant for poor soil?
Yes and no. Basically, they like nice loose soil. They like a fair bit of fertility, and so. But if you had your poor soil and you dug it over now, mixed a bit of good soil through it, maybe a bit of potting mix, a bit of Osmocote, get it nice and loose and get it firing away, they'll thrive in it. So really, poor soil doesn't have to stay poor. That's really what I'm saying. But I would, if your soil was kind of scraggly and kind of terrible and you didn't want to improve it, I probably wouldn't use a Hebe. I'd be more likely to use something like an Escallonia as a flowering shrub that will deal better with poorer soils.
All right, awesome. There you go, Mitchell. All right, we're going to jump back over to TikTok. P asks, can I grow cherry blossoms in Sydney?
Yes.
Okay, there you go. Simple
Yes,
answer.
yeah,
Any like growing tips or for Sydney? Or?
Cherry blossom, to get the best blossom, you'd want a nice sunny spot, and depending and what's interesting about cherry blossoms is you can get little weeping ones, like you can get ones that are grafted and they weep and they're really little, and you could even grow one in a big pot. You know, you could get a nice small weeping cherry blossom and grow it in a big pot, or you could get a big if you had a nice big sunny open spot, you could get a big fabulous one. Probably and my favorite would be Shimizu Sakura, and Shimizu Sakura is a beautiful. What happens? The buds are quite a deep pink when they're closed, and then as they open, you got a mixture of pink and white, and then as they get older, they turn white, and so you end up with this 3 different colours. It's kind of like I'd call it sort of an apple blossom effect, and with the Shimizu Sakura, there's a tremendous density in the blossom. Like some cherry trees could be a bit disappointing, like they'll be a bit the blossoms will be a bit far apart, but there's wonderful density in the blossom. So I think that's probably my favourite spring blossom, and that's a medium-sized cherry blossom. And another really nice one is your first blush is really, really nice. So first blush is early, beautiful, rich pink, and pow, it's out there and it's just covered in beautiful fine pink bloom. So that's a couple of really nice cherries you could do. But if you've only got a room for a pot, go for a little weeping cherry.
All right, there you go, P. Hopefully you got to see that answer there from Chris. Again, if you missed any of these answers, head over to YouTube and search Hello Plants and Garden Supplies. You'll find this live. Will be posted in about 10 minutes. All right, Jordan asks us on TikTok, what do you fertilize your plants with? Do you have a broad solution?
I have my own little blend here, and I got it from another nurseryman. And what it is, the two number one fertilizers. The two number one fertilizers on the market that nurserymen use are Osmocote and Nutricote, and they're both a little bit different, and they're both pretty good. And anyway, a nurseryman told me that he was speaking to a couple of top people from either of the reps from either of those companies, and what they actually said in private to him was the very best thing was when you mix Nutricote and Osmocote together, because you get the best. They're both very good fertilizers, but you get the best qualities of both. I know Osmocote releases well in cold weather. Nutricote hangs on better to the nutrients, and they're coated slow release fertilizers, so you can throw them on the leaves and throw them over things and not hurt things. And so they're both slow release, and but when you blend the two together, and that's actually what we sell in the shop here. Actually, for my own, I have quite a few 100,000 plants growing myself that we use, we're growing on for sale, and I use the Osmocote Nutricote 50-50 mix, and for that, and I really recommend that. And then and that's what we sell in the nursery here. But in terms of when you don't know much about fertilizer, your slow release like your Osmocote or your Nutricote are very, very safe, because you can put a little bit too much on, and because it releases slowly, it doesn't hurt them. You can throw it onto wet leaves. Some fertilizers will take the foliage right off, whereas your Osmocote and Nutricote, they're coated. You can't do much damage with it, and you can do a lot of good. And also, because it's slow releasing, I think it's environmentally much better than the uncoated fertilizers, which release as soon as they get wet and go and run off and go into the rivers and lakes and cause poison. So I think you're slow for the average person who really doesn't know heaps about horticulture, and even for somebody like me, I have to fertilize thousands of plants, and I've got hundreds of different varieties, and nearly all of them will happily use Osmocote and Nutricote. So it creates a simplicity, and the fact that it's slow releasing means that I'm not causing a big environmental problem. So I'm pretty big on those. But I mean, there are, as you get more knowledgeable, like one of the best is to produce your own compost. A lot of animal manures are very good on lots of plants, blood and bone used to be a good one, but these days it's hard to get really good quality blood and bone. So it's actually, they sometimes put other stuff in it, and it's become a bit of a dangerous thing. So I think, and dynamic lifter, if you're on a big property and you've got a lot of stuff to do, dynamic lifter is very economical to use, so that's quite a good fertilizer too. And you really can't do much damage with dynamic lifter. And for very sensitive natives, and like I was talking about the black boys before, with Osmocote you've got a native one which is very low in phosphorus, which is a nice safe one for your natives. So really I guess I use lots of Osmocote mixed with Nutricote.
All right, there you go, Jordan. A very comprehensive answer there for you. So hopefully that helps you out with your broad solution fertilizing. Just quickly want a quick one here. We're getting a lot of questions. We're not going to be able to get through them all. We're doing our best to get to all of your questions here today. But again, if you want to have a one-on-one consultation or have the time with Chris, you can always book in a garden design through our website, hellohelloplants.com.au or the tutuguru.com.au. You can book Chris one-on-one consultation.
Why don't we give him an extra 10 or 15 minutes today,
All right.
because we've got a lot of questions, and then I'll stop being so
elaborate,
and we'll try and bang through a few. Okay.
All right, cool.
I'll change my style.
We are doing our best on the back end here as well to get to all of your questions.
I'm
Just quickly,
doing fairly elaborate answers to try and really educate people, but maybe I'll try and do some.
That's all right. I think Jordan would have appreciated that. That was a pretty good answer.
Yeah, well, I thought lots of people need to know about fertilizer, so I'd go in depth a little bit.
That's fine. All right, Q just says quickly, where are you guys located, by the way? Do you have stores in Brisbane?
Campbellfield, right near the Tullamarine Airport, like 10 minutes from the airport, so you can fly in from Brisbane and pop out here, pick up a cheap fare one day and pop down and see us, okay? It's probably one of the fullest and most interesting and wildest nurseries you'll ever visit.
All right, there you go.
Right near the airport.
Q. Right near the airport. You can drive. We're just on Sydney Road, aren't we?
I'll pick you up myself from the airport if you come down, okay?
We're just on Sydney Road. You can come on down through Sydney as well.
Yeah.
All right, good. So LH asks, thoughts on companion planting?
Do you know, that's something, I think there was a famous landscape architect in Sydney, in London, or England a few hundred years ago, and what was he called? Capability Brown. And what he did was he used to plant nurse plants around plants, and he would create an environment to get plants going. And I think that's a fabulous idea. And there was tree lucerne, which is a fast-growing legume. It can grow 2 meters in a year. There was some research and some papers done in New Zealand 30 or 40 years ago where they were planting walnut trees and using them using Tagasasti as a nurse crop to grow around them. And I think, and even I was saying before, when I was 7, I went door knocking, and I was very lucky. I got this wonderful lady. Employed me every Saturday for a decade, for 10 years till I was 17, and she bought an acre on a sort of what was a bald mountaintop at the time, and she planted a nurse crop of broom trees, right around the edge of her place, and then inside she planted a beech and cherries and all the beautiful English plants. She was from Cornwall, and she planted all this fabulous English garden, smoke bushes and all wonderful plants, but all inside a windbreak of broom. And when I came along, she'd been there for maybe 10 years or so, and I cut the broom down and chopped it up for firewood. And so it was basically a companion plant or a nurse crop, and a lot of people could really use that. And you can, like, something like Tagasasti or tree lucerne is great for a nurse crop, because what it does, it fixes atmospheric nitrogen, it grows like crazy. But there's lots and lots of plants around. Like I'm doing a garden design for a chap at the moment, and I'm going to plant a fast-growing evergreen alder hedge, which is a nitrogen-fixing, super fast hedge, as a nurse to get his other 2 hedges going. We're going to have a sort of a low hedge and a tall hedge, and we're going to plant the ulmus or evergreen alder as a companion plant, and it'll fix atmospheric nitrogen, and it really encourage those other ones to come on. So I think that it's something that's really, plants love an environment. They love the shelter of another plant. You know, like you find in the nursery when you've got plants growing together, there's a thing that nurserymen call, it's called end-of-rowitis. And what happens is you grow a whole row of plants in a group, and the last couple of plants on the end of the row that don't have the companionship of other plants
They're a
so
bit
much,
scraggly,
they're short and scraggly. And it's an actual disease, and nurserymen call it end-of-rowitis. They said those ones on the end, they're not much good, they've got end-of-rowitis.
I've seen that actually, yeah. The ones on the end usually look smaller.
So end-of-rowitis, and that's a lack of companion planting. And I know that some trees like silver birch, for instance, grow best when they grow in clumps and grow together, and that's because that's a companion planting, enjoying each other. But there's lots that you can do if you're getting going. I'd say on a vacant block, you can plant fast temporary, and I believe that the acacia, the Australian native acacias, were designed by nature to form that shelter to get other things growing. You get slower things growing, and so in nature, when there's a bushfire or a landslide, something like the acacia, if it's in the southern hemisphere, or in the northern hemisphere, the birch or the alder, the seed spreads across the land and they pop up and grow, and then the slower growing things come up, and those nurse type ones tend to die young and get diseased and fall apart, and then the other ones that they form a shelter for then take over. And so it's something that occurs in nature, and it's something that's in our sort of horticultural technology is way underutilized. And I remember walking with a chap through an agroforestry project he was doing, and a few acacias had accidentally been planted with the eucalypts, and we noticed that the eucalypts were growing much better near the acacias than the eucalypts that were without acacias. So there's tremendous, and I mean that idea of things forming a nurse or a shelter can be used even in your veggie patch. Like when I'm planting a veggie patch, I'll often plant something slow growing like a capsicum. I'll put lettuces and things around them, and by the time the capsicum really gets going, I'm eating the lettuce and making space for the capsicum. But those plants enjoy having those other plants around them and the humidity and the shelter that it creates.
All right, there you go, LH. Lovely big answer for you there on companion planting.
I was going to do short answers, wasn't
Yeah, we went long again. We've only got about 6 minutes left here, guys. All right, we'll try to get to some more questions. So Emma just comments saying, I'll be there on the weekend. Exactly to look I'm after. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, love to see you. Thanks, Emma.
Q says, thank you. Sabs says, what plants do you recommend for indoor area with very little sunlight?
Aspidistra. Aspidistra is number one. Aspidistra, that's the plant that was the first indoor plant that became popular in Victorian times because they only had little tiny windows with lots of curtains and things on them, very little light inside. But also I've noticed in our house that the mother-in-law's tongue, which is probably a cruel name, maybe Sansevieria is the other name for it, that mother-in-law's tongue seems to grow really quite well in quite a dark bedroom in our house.
Yeah, that can be in quite a neglected space and continue growing actually.
Yeah, so Aspidistra, and I wonder what else. Aralia would be another one too. And you get
How do you spell that?
Aralia, A-R-A-L-I-A, Aralia.
Aralia, okay.
Yeah, Aralia. And Aralia has a great big leaf, and it seems to do very well in dark spaces.
Great, and we just released a video on this literally today, I think, or yesterday, called Erica's Apartment Part 3, and it's going over planting indoor plants in a dark space.
Yes, that's right. We decorated, that's an interesting series that people could look at if they're interested in indoor plants. I decorated my ex-daughter-in-law's new house with indoor plants, and we'd made a video where we dealt with various different situations, and one of them was low light situations. And one of the ideas that we came up with, here's another short answer, we came up with for low light situations was to put two plants in the same, one in a high light situation in the house and none in a low light, and then she's going to swap them every 10 days or so.
Yeah, that's a great idea, rotating them around.
Yeah, rotating low to high, and that's kind of like an insurance policy because plants do like a bit of light. Awesome.
All right, let's get to our next one here. I want to, I can't read that. Neve Ferb says, I want to grow a star jasmine along the top of a fence, 25 to 30 feet. How big of a pot?
Wow, I think you need a couple of pots.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Star jasmine, yes.
yeah, I think if you did one pot, here we are, if you did say a 16 to 20 inch pot for every 2 meters.
All right, there you go. So how many again? How many would that total? 25 to 30. 25 to 30 feet. So that's 10 meters roughly, isn't it?
So 30 feet is 10 meters. So if you did 5 16-inch pots, you'd have it covered.
5 16-inch pots?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
5 16 or 20-inch pots. Yeah.
Lovely. You would have it all covered. Beautiful. All right.
And use good quality potting mix and plenty of fertilizer and plenty of water.
Yep. Sounds good. That's for you over there on TikTok. NFK Verb. All right. Next is Ebony saying, I need some tips on Magnolia Little Gems. Not GR. I'm not sure what that means, but just need tips on Little Gems not growing, maybe?
Oh, maybe not growing. Yeah, okay. Lots of people have little gems. Actually, I was in a place the other day and their little gems weren't growing. First of all, cultivate around them. So get rid of any grass or weeds and cultivate around the base and have a nice, as bigger area as you can around the base. Say it was a 1.5 metre little gem, I would want to see about 60 or 80 centimetres of no grass or weeds around the base. Probably say 80 centimetres, no grass or weeds around the base. Then I would use lots and lots of, actually right now I'd put, and then around the base you could put like a kilo of dolomite lime at the moment. Leave it for about 6 weeks and then put 3 tablespoons of Osmocote around them and sprinkle it all around the base. Okay, so
perfect.
Lime, Osmocote, and then as you get into, and then 6 months later put some more Osmocote on, and then as you get into summer, be generous with the water, you know, and they're fairly deep rooted, so give them a really deep soak. Don't just tease them with a little squirt on the surface.
Okay.
You know, you could even leave something dripping on them for some time. Get some water down nice and deep. Get it down 1 metre in the ground.
When is their best growing period? Is it
summer.
Summer, okay.
They're summer growers, but what they like is they like heat, sun, fertilizer, bit of lime and water.
All right, there you go, Ebony. There's your tips on growing little gem magnolias. R here asks, are you guys hiring at Camberfield location?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And
we're particularly looking for people with some sort of horticultural ability or interest.
beautiful. There you go, Ebony. And then Ebony also helped answer, sorry, not Ebony, R. I can't, there's no name here, Stars and R, I think. Also commented for Ebony saying, I tried keeping mine in partial shade. I think they tend to do best in full sunlight, which is what Chris just said as well. So hopefully that, Ebony, you got the answers you need here from the live. We're going to answer just a few more and then we're going to wrap it up. Kesh asks, healthy berry plant tips, please, like blackberry, blueberry and strawberries.
Okay. Blueberries are really kind of, if you treat them like azaleas, they don't need a lot of hot afternoon sun. They love deep, loose soil and they like the soil to be acidic. Now, a good way to make soil acidic is to get some fine crushed pine bark and dig it deep and mix it all through, or if they're already planted and established, top dress them with a nice thick layer of crushed pine bark, and as it rots and the moisture washes through it, it'll tend to make your area more acid, so they love acidity. And then Osmocote makes a liquid fertilizer for acid-loving plants, and you'll find that with that liquid fertilizer, your blueberries will go berserk. But now your other berries would like a more neutral pH, so they might enjoy a bit of lime at this time of year, and then fertilise them with, dynamic lift or Osmocote or whatever in the summer, and plenty of moisture. And then what you've got to remember is that there's a little bit of, with your raspberries and blackberries and things like that, they flower on 2-year-old. The wood has to be more than 1 year old. So people who hack them off really hard or indiscriminately cannot have any fruit. What you've got to do is thin the canes out and choose the canes. So, what you want is you want to have plenty of canes that are going into their second year to get plenty of fruit. And then, a bit of lime in the winter, water and fertilizer through the summer months, and you'll get plenty of fruit.
All right,
And
beautiful.
then strawberries love plenty of water and very, very loose, fertile soil. You can grow them in a pot, and I knew a chap who used to grow lots of them in pots, and he used to grow them in a pot with a saucer of water underneath, and they used to love it.
Okay, that's really good to know. All right, there you go, Cash.
And plenty of fertilizer.
Akshu, sorry. There you go, Akshu. All right, beautiful. We'll make this the last question because our garden design team is trying to get back in here for you, Chris.
Yep.
All right, so Katie asks, I missed this one, so apologies for that, Katie. Topiary, and I'm sorry if we didn't get to all of your questions. Again, you can book our free garden design service through the website. You can have a one-on-one consultation with Chris if you need more time. But we do these live Q&As every Monday, so you can join us next Monday is a public holiday. We'll be back next Tuesday at 12 o'clock with a live Q&A with Chris. All right, this is our last question for today. Katie asking, topiary roses, just brought them and planted them, although they are flowering. Do they need to cut them back?
No.
Because it's winter.
No. Just look, what'll happen is it'll get cold, the leaves will shrivel up and get black spots and look terrible, and the flowers will all die, and don't do anything. Just let them go.
Yeah.
And then I reckon end of the first week in August, give them a good hard clip, and you clip your standard roses to be like a hand, like an open hand like this. You get rid of those internal branches like that, and you cut them, just short like that to outward facing buds, so that the rose kind of goes out. So the buds will be like on the bottom of the stem, outward facing buds, sort of outward like that. And you do that first week in August. If you cut hard now, you tend to promote new growth at a time when you don't really want it. Whereas if you cut in early August, the new growth comes away really, really nicely.
So you wait until early August.
Yeah, early August, and then you cut them back like my hand. You cut them back quite hard, looking more or less like my hand.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, guys, thank you so much for all of your questions today. We really appreciate it, and sorry if we didn't get to your questions here on the show. We do our best to answer all of them, but we only have a limited amount of time. We also went 10 minutes extra this week, so hopefully we got to answer the majority of your questions here today, and we'll be back not next Monday, it'll be next Tuesday, just because of the public holiday, at 12 o'clock with Chris again for 45 minutes. It's the live Q&A. Alternatively, if you want to book Chris for a free garden design service, you can do that through our website, hellohelloplants.com.au or the22guru.com.au. Any final words before we sign off, Chris?
Yes, well, on Friday at 12 o'clock, we're having our Grow and Direct flash sale. And what happens is I'm going to be on the phone, I'm going to be out in the fields tomorrow, and I'm going to gather together 100 amazing bargains. Now what I do, and if you want to get educated on gardening, what I do is I do a little explanation on every one of those 100 items in a 2-hour period. It'll start at 12 o'clock and finish at 2 o'clock, or maybe 10 minutes later like this. And whether you need plants right now or not, you'll find it very educational and very, very interesting. And if you've got a friend who needs to do a big gardening project, let him in on it. 12 o'clock this Friday.
12 o'clock this Friday for around 2 hours, isn't it?
Yeah, for around 2 hours. And I'm going to do a little expose on 100 different plants. I'll show the plant, I'll say, look, here we've got this. Normally they're $20, but now they're $12. And the deals, right at the moment, the deals on the Grow Direct flash sale are really, really, really good. So we're going to have a great range of really, really good deals. Grow Direct flash sale, and it's educational. It'll help you do your garden.
Lovely. All right, let's leave it there, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you either at the Grow Direct flash sale
or
next Tuesday.
Thanks.